Christian Bridges is in for Alan Holt tonight. Okay, so severe weather, still something we need to be mindful of.
Right, and I know that the threat has diminished and it has kind of shifted farther to the west, but I don't want to completely discount it. It's still definitely a big potential as we get into tonight. So have a way to get warnings and make sure you're prepared for those storms as they roll on in. Let's take a look at what we're seeing right now. We never really expected a lot of activity until beyond this point anyway. It still is looking like tonight is when we're going to see that highest risk. It may be not until closer to midnight that some of us get in on the storm activity. But we've had a good amount of activity all through the day in Quebec, and some of that has moved down into Maine as well. You can see here on the radar, continuing to see some showers and thunderstorms, if we can get myself popped up here, hopefully. But yeah, we are continuing to see a couple showers and storms rolling down from Canada. Just one warning in Vermont that's probably going to be dropped here pretty soon as we will see that storm continuing to weaken. Let's take a look at the visible satellite. There we go. Now I can see myself. We've got the visible satellite showing the severe wildfires that we've got ongoing. This is just north of Lake Superior. That's the Arrowhead of Minnesota, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan there, if you are wondering where this is. All of that you're seeing right here, these big plumes, those are massive, massive fires. And because we had a front that moved over them yesterday, it really kicked them up a lot more than expected. And that's why our skies have ended up so smoky today. In fact, for a lot of us, this is the big weather story of the day. Thank you to Christopher for sending in this picture. Yellowy, sort of weird looking, milky skies, weird lighting out there. That's what we've seen a lot of today with this thick wildfire smoke. So let's talk about that first before we get into the severe weather details. It will remain thick in our skies through the evening hours and through the overnight too. In fact, it may be even thicker as we wake up tomorrow. Now, thankfully, it's not impacting air quality, but certainly making for a weird look in the skies out there this evening. And that will continue into tomorrow morning. Notice the thick concentrations of that Canadian wildfire smoke across central and southern Maine. Good news is it will improve quite a bit as we head through the day. It looks like it will shift south as drier, more clean air works its way into the state for tomorrow. But of course, we still have to get through this risk of severe weather. First window of concern looks to be from right around now through the wee hours of late tonight, so 2 to 3 in the morning. Highest risk still looks to be in western Maine and the mountains, with damaging winds leading the headlines here. There is also a risk for hail and a tornado as well, and a higher risk than a typical severe weather event for both of those factors. Usually it's damaging winds that we're most concerned about. That is the case with this one, but hail and a tornado is possible as well. Thankfully, not really looking at a flood threat with this one. I don't want to pull up all of the Storm Prediction Center graphics. I feel like they're having a tough time lining up with the actual conditions we're seeing on the ground. So based on what we're seeing, this looks like the most likely spots for severe weather tonight. Highest risk, western Maine into New Hampshire and Vermont and up towards the international border, towards Sebago Lake and into the foothills. Still a decent risk of severe storms, but it drops off quite a bit towards the coast and towards the east. Maybe a severe storm makes it to Bangor, but it looks like that risk is much higher to the west. Same story along the southern Maine coast and the mid-coast. One couldn't be ruled out there, but largely the risk is higher to the west. So as I mentioned, I'm not really expecting things to get going here until the next few hours. Here we are, 8 p.m. Likely some potent storms have developed in Quebec by this point. They're moving in over the international border. By about 10, 11 o'clock, they're pushing into portions of central Maine, maybe towards the Sebago Lake area, reaching the coastline towards midnight, gradually tapering off after that. It looks like the severe threat comes to an end. However, modeling is seeming to pick up on the chance of storms potentially lingering into tomorrow morning. They probably wouldn't be severe, but there's the possibility that we're still dealing with rumbles of thunder early on Wednesday, which will eventually turn into a beautiful day, though it will be very warm in the upper 80s in many spots for the afternoon. Marine forecast, small crafts in place, breezy winds out there tomorrow as the drier air works its way in. Here's your 7-day. You can see we are very warm on Wednesday in the mid to upper 80s with sunny skies. Watching a chance of a storm Thursday in the afternoon, not severe though. And then Friday is looking refreshing and beautiful, near 80 and sunny. Cooler for the weekend, chance of rain. I'm hoping it can come mostly Saturday night, but there's a potential it impacts the weekend, so we'll watch that closely. Otherwise, no 90s in the forecast, kind of returning towards more typical July weather.
Okay, a little more normal.
A little more normal later this week.
All right, Christian, thank you.